welcome back to Light the Fuse, the only Mission Impossible podcast that was recognized by a executive producer of Star Wars Resistance.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, you told me this story.
I told you, yeah.
I guess tell us all.
Well, so I was at the Star Wars Resistance press day and broke a story that got a lot more traction than I thought it would. But one of the executive producers of Star Wars Resistance, which is a great animated series that I suggest everyone watch, came up and said, I put my recorder down and he said, hey, light the fuse? And I said, yes, absolutely.
I do.
Us.
I do
like the fuse. So this is Justin Ridge, who is kind of a legendary animation guy. He started on Avatar: The Last Airbender and has done so many awesome things. But he follows us on Twitter, so we have to say hello. Justin, thank you for listening. I told Charles the story, and yeah.
And I refuse to believe it.
Yeah, so if you can confirm that on Twitter, be very, very much appreciated. But today we are talking to Scott Chambliss, who is amazing.
Yeah, really amazing work doing the production design for Mission Impossible 3. And he's in other movies as well for JJ Abrams.
Star Trek 2009.
Yep.
Godzilla King of the Monsters most recently. I believe this is his most recent film.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talk about all sorts of Mission Impossible 3 stuff in this episode, including an alternate finale for the third movie. Does he talk about his problems with Mission Impossible 3 in this one?
I don't remember. I think that might be in the next one.
Okay, well, at some point he does, which is very interesting.
It's really cool to hear him.
And he also almost killed a guy in Shanghai. So, not that that should be on his public record or anything, but so we love Scott, and this interview is really, really fun, and we hope you guys love it. Do you have anything to bring up before?
Just that Paul Hirsch's book is out.
It is out.
You should get the book. It's out now. It's on Amazon. You can order it. It's called A Long Time Ago in a Cutting Room Far, Far Away. So, yeah, we're digging. We don't have it in our hands right now, but by the time this episode comes out, we will, and we will be reading it.
We'll have one between us.
You think only one?
I think we'll only have one.
It?
Yeah, we just don't have the cash right now.
Just get Paul's book and check out our interview with Paul. He's a great guy.
Yeah, we're wondering if he maybe kept something that is only in the book. So we're very excited to see if he's got any Mission Impossible details. It's on the cover of the book, so.
Oh yeah, that's true. We're gonna have to dig into all the Mission Impossible details because he said he covered them. There were chapters for them.
Yes, but
so I'm sure we'll have to talk about that.
Didn't we ask about something and he said you'll read about it in the book?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we're very excited about this book. Stay tuned. After the episode, we'll be back. But until then, here's Kevin Blumenfeld's just rip off.
We decided it's a
loving homage.
An illegal loving homage.
Yes.
To the plot theme.
Yes.
So enjoy that and this great interview.
And we'll be back afterwards. All right, we are here with Scott Chambliss. Scott, how are you?
Great, how are you?
Good. You want to tell people what you did for Mission Impossible 3?
No, I didn't do much.
Oh, that's not just...
I was the production designer on Mission Impossible 3, and that was the first big feature that JJ Abrams and I did together.
Yeah, his first feature.
Not his first feature ever.
Well,
he'd written some.
He'd written some, right?
A few, yeah. He hadn't directed a feature.
Regarding Henry, one of your favorites.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that movie.
And he had the Superman script that was, I think, with John Peters for a while.
Yeah.
That didn't get made.
Flyby.
Yeah, well, we talk about that in our Making of MI3 episode because there was a weird trade-off between
I heard that.
Ratner and
that was strange.
him and Bryan Singer, and they all ended up shuffling each other's movies around.
Yeah. Were you going to be on Superman?
No, it wasn't clear that he was going to even be able to direct that. He didn't have quite the mojo there that he wound up with Tom Cruise.
Right. So had you been a fan of his before?
JJ?
Yeah. Like, did you watch Alias?
You worked on Alias.
Oh, you did Alias. That's
did
right.
And Felicity.
Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah. And Felicity. Okay.
I actually visited the set of Felicity when I was 16.
Doing what?
My uncle was a camera operator on it.
Oh, how funny.
David Frederick. I don't know if you would know him.
No, because I only came on and did their third season. The guy who did the first two seasons, he left for whatever reason. And I had just done a pilot with Matt Reeves where I met Matt, his partner on Felicity, for the first time, and he just called me up and asked if I'd be interested in filling in.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you can tell us why JJ Abrams always has red balls in his projects.
Oh God, do I have to?
Do you know why?
I've given him so much shit about that over the years. It was just it was a fly-by-night thing, and I think because I've given him so much shit is why he made such a big deal out of it. Honestly, it was
So it's your fault.
completely.
I love it.
It was this prop from the Alias pilot that was supposed to be this magic thing that was ultimately the introduction to the Milo Rambaldi thing, who was, God, arcane. The Leonardo who could do all these esoteric
Did you ever watch
and
Alias?
I just saw the
Hocus
first
Pocus
few
things.
episodes.
I love it.
It was great fun to do, and that's why JJ and I became a team. That's where we kind of met and learned about and learned from each other and came to trust each other and be great collaborators and all that. Otherwise, I never would have done Mission Impossible with him. But anyway, back to the more important red ball.
Right.
So there's this prop that's supposed to be this magic-y thing, but TV pilots don't have any budgets, and they happen really fast. And our poor prop guy, Chris Call, was given this kind of weird scribble of a design. I think JJ did it originally. If not, he amended something that came out of the art department. And ultimately, in the fabrication process, it looked like two opposing pork chops and one of those little red super balls that you see at the end of a paddle ball.
Right.
When you do that thing when you're a little kid. And it was supposed to be, in the finished product, levitating above these two pork chops. Not really pork chops. But for film, we had to create a mechanism where it spun on a post that was rotating in the machine and all that. So
Right.
she was going to wipe it all out. And there was the ball up there that was supposed to be levitating smoothly. But because the pilot was so fucking cheap, can I say
Yes.
that on the
Yeah.
pilot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Say
This-
whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
They never wiped out the fact that the red ball wobbled. It had a wobble to it in the final product. So you look at that and go, well, that's not magic. That's kind of lame. And I could never get over how lame that was. And so I'd always roll my eyes at that. And I think from that moment on, he just decided, yeah, I'm going to have a red ball. In fact, the finale of that first season or the second season was the world's biggest red ball that
Yeah, it's
turns
huge.
into an ocean that floods the world or something like that. And then after that, I think, was there a red ball in Mission?
There wasn't a red ball in Mission, but there was a red ball in Star Trek.
Yeah, that was.
Well, they're the red balls that Ving Rhames
Oh, that's
uses.
true.
Ving Rhames has these little mouse pad things that he tracks them to
Yeah.
move the guns around.
Yeah, that wasn't really important.
Yeah.
That was probably just JJ messing with me again.
But a red ball in Star Trek.
Star Trek, well, that's where I got back. I didn't get back at him. I thought, okay, this is going to be your signature thing then. Let's make it really beautiful. And I did a big, beautiful red ball and encased it in that pretty jewel box of a set for Leonard. And
That
gave
ship
him
is so great.
auto finish and all that. So that was
Yeah.
fun.
And there's red dots in Super 8 on the bad guys' trucks.
Are there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
He doesn't do it in Star Wars, though, I don't think. Does he?
No. But he has a character that's a ball that rolls.
Yeah,
around,
that's
so.
such a JJ creation too. I love that. Well, see, he's not doing red balls anymore because I'm not around to taunt him about that.
That's true. I mean, what,
I should have told Rick Carter about
yeah.
that. I don't know.
So you've had this relationship with JJ. You were saying that, just pre-gaming, that there was a lot of skepticism about him being able to pull this off.
Oh yeah, this was. He didn't have any identity in town really, and that was probably into. I think that was into the third season of Alias at that point, and when Paula and Tom made that really brave move, not only to hire him to write it, but finally after a bit of heartache, gave him the reins to direct the thing. Nobody really wanted to sign on to it. They had a hard time getting a line producer to take on the film, and ultimately they pulled Stratton Leopold, who'd been with Paramount for I think 12 years at that point, and he was in retirement as far as he was concerned. He didn't want to do it, but Paramount and Paula kind of pressured him into doing it because nobody else wanted to go on with some TV director doing this huge Tom Cruise movie. That's going to be a disaster.
Right.
And I had a hard time crewing up every one of the keys that he brought with him from his team on Alias, myself, Marianne, Mary Jo, Giacchino, yeah. I don't know if Giacchino had any trouble, but it was it was a little interesting to put that together. But the joke between the line producer on Alias and myself was, up to that point, before Tom started courting him, was that, JJ has to direct movies, but he can't do, he can only do two things. He could do a really, really small movie, or he could do a mega movie. He can't do anything in between because his ambition is too big for that, and his capabilities wouldn't have the patience for it.
Right.
So the timing of this was perfect for him.
Was there? So he was initially hired just to write it?
They wanted him to write it first.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it. And then they were still at the point, Tom and Paula, of they wanted the big name directors, and they wanted, big name keys for everything. And even when they signed up JJ to direct as well, their whole thing was, okay, now we're going to surround you with Academy Award winners to be your DP and your costume designer and your production designer, and he sat with that for a while and had a little bit of trouble about it. And once again, his line producer from Alias said, they hired you because they love all the work that you've done, and your people are a huge part of that. You should bring your people with you. That's how people move up in the business, not just you, writers, directors, but TPs, designers, editors, all of that. These guys serve you well. You have the relationship already. Do it. Mm-hmm. And when he brought that to Tom and Paula, that was another big one for them to swallow. But he was adamant about it, and that's how that happened.
Wow.
And up until all the way, and I'll stop blathering about this, but the whole pre-production process, even back then, JJ would commit only so much to what he ultimately wanted to do. The scripts were in transition, significantly. Even though there's a finished product at WGA, there's always a finished product that's based on what you finally shoot.
Right.
But there were sequences that moved around, and the finale definitely went through a couple of different iterations before it's what you saw.
Oh, really?
Film.
The Chinese finale?
Yeah. That came late in the day.
Do you know what? That's interesting because we've studied this franchise so much, and the scripts are. We thought MI3 actually was the one that probably had the most solid script all the way through and wasn't being tinkered with, but it sounds like it was just like every other Mission movie.
They're always tinkered with, and that did have a solid script up until the finale, but they couldn't figure out quite how to end it, which is often a problem with these big movies that are adventure, action, or CG, or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
And what they were trying to do at that point was they just wanted to keep topping the stunt sequences they'd done up to this point.
Right.
And so what we were looking for, JJ and I got really turned on by these Edward Bertinsky photographs I showed him of all the shipbreaking that goes on in India, which everybody knows now. It's this huge toxic coastal landscape on the beach, blah, blah, blah. Nobody had gone there to shoot it. It was something that wasn't in the media except for Bertinsky's images, which were breathtakingly beautiful. And we got the passports, got the visas, got the shots to go scout it in India, and we just kept getting pushback after pushback getting over there to the location we wanted to go. And also JJ was having a hard time wrapping his mind around the sequence, how to make it meaningful. And with good reason, because it was just like, a big, stupid effects finale, but it didn't do anything that significant for the characters, to be honest. But he kept trying to balance it, and it wasn't until were we scouting at this point in Italy? I think so. It was the tech scout, and one of the nights a bunch of us went out to dinner. He took us to one of his favorite Italian restaurants, and we were sitting next to each other talking about the whole thing, and started into the finale again. And in the conversation, I kept asking him questions. What's most important to you here? You've got all these killer sequences up to this point, and you've got these two amazing characters that you need resolution for. What is it really about? Is it about another sequence, or is it about these two together? Is the intensity of your storytelling maybe there, as opposed to trying to have the big action finale of all finales? And you kind of sat with that for a bit and thought, that's really interesting. And, before too long, that's when he started coming up with the idea of it's these guys hand-to-hand combat, which is, ultimately what you see in China.
our minds are blown right now. What?
It's not the only time that's happened on jobs that I've worked on, too. But
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure, but so
Well, it's also very Rogue Nation-like.
yeah,
Same thing happened with Rogue Nation, where they were trying to top the finale, and then they ended up going smaller with it and making it more intimate and more
It's so
about character.
smart because it's more satisfying for the audience.
Yeah. So were they in one of these cargo ships, or what was going on?
No, the plug was pulled on that
Okay.
early enough that we didn't spend a whole lot of money.
Okay.
We didn't even go scout it, ultimately. And that's probably for the good. We wouldn't have been able to afford that sequence anyway.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's part of the fun of these big things, though, because they're never really that fixed. So it's always moving parts. And on something like this, where the stage is the entire world, it's international moving parts. And
Yeah.
for a production designer, that's really exciting.
Well, you said that it also took Tom a little bit to court JJ.
That was really fun.
Yeah. what was that like?
He'd show up to the Disney lot about twice a week, at least once or twice a week, almost every week for a period of a month or two. Just have a meeting with JJ, talk about him, talk about the script, what he might want to do. Every once in a while he'd bring somebody with him. He'd certainly have his entourage of handlers and keepers and all that. And once in a while he'd have a gift for JJ, and then some other time after a weekend, JJ would come to the lot to work on Alias and say, yeah, I just spent the weekend with Tom on his motorcycle, and we did this and that, and it's like, wow. Romance before my eyes. It was something.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge from a production design standpoint for MI3?
Oh, you know what? It was a shared one once again.
Okay.
Going from a moderately budgeted episodic TV show that was only moderately successful. People knew about it, but not all that many people watched it. To the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible #3 that had, the storied, troubled lead up to this very point. That was daunting. And there was a moment when we'd already signed on. We had been into it for maybe a month or so, a month and a half in the prep. And it was right after a meeting we had with Paula and Tom and the execs at Disney. And we were both in the bathroom at the same time. And we wound up at the sink washing up and just talking about things. And then he turned to me and looked at me and said, "Are you scared?" And I looked at him and said, "Yeah, I'd be an idiot if I weren't scared. Are you scared?" And he said, "Yeah." I was like, "Good, all right, I think we're okay then."
Yeah.
And that was that.
You didn't look, I mean, I'm assuming that over the course of however many iterations of this movie they did before JJ even signed on, there were designs and set pieces and things. Did you look at any of that stuff when you signed on? Did any of that stuff inspire anything in the movie?
No, because it was a different script at that point.
Okay.
It was that World War II thing. But when I did go my first round of...
World War II thing?
Well, they were... One of the big sets that they had was It was in or just outside of Berlin. They were based in Babelsberg. You know that already.
Yeah.
They'd gotten pretty far along. They were designing and building the sets. They'd taken over an old military base, World War II, that was still looked like that. I don't think it had been used for much of anything for a few decades.
And this is the Joe Carnahan version that was abandoned.
Yeah.
Right.
They had vehicles already. They had a whole warehouse full of shit.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, they were pretty close to production when they
Yeah.
shut that down.
I can't remember who was designing that either. Might have been Tom Sanders. But they had big models, the whole complex. They were painting that place already. It was interesting looking. I thought, if I do a World War II movie, I'm coming back here. But, yeah, couldn't use it.
So you sign on. You're nervous. You sign on. What are the biggest challenges? I would imagine IMF headquarters was a big one.
That was fun. I mean, that was something that was already kind of in my wheelhouse, having spent season after season doing new headquarters.
Right.
Underground.
SD6. Yeah.
Secret. Oh, boy. I think I've designed about 6 or 7 secret underground headquarters now. I am almost as sick of them as I am of designing spaceships, but never mind that.
What about the Vatican? I mean,
Vatican was cool.
What was the conversation about that? Because you found a location outside of Rome, right? That was, and when in the process, because did you shoot? How much of it is actual Vatican? How much of it is that location? And how much did you build?
None of it's Vatican. All of the significant locations are in the Reggia at Caserta, which is near Naples, and it's this big, beautiful old palace that is, I think it was mostly a government place at that point. And I think one of the Star Wars movies had used it as a location as well, many years previous, I believe, for something else. So primarily our location for the Vatican in the film was the Reggia, which is castle in Caserta, town near Naples. Old, I think it's from the 1880s. That's the architectural style. Grand. And I'd scouted all over Italy for different options for our sequences in the Vatican. This was the only one that had the scale and all of the diverse spaces that we could work with that worked for the sequence. And you asked what was the most daunting things. It was figuring out where in the world we were going to be, what was the best solution for each of our sequences, and also gave us the biggest contrast in terms of what this canvas of the world was for the film. Because the great thing about Mission Impossible movies are you get to go so many different places and have these different vibes in every sequence when you're in a different country. And it was important that each place for each sequence was distinctly different from the other. That's a challenge, but also a very exciting thing. I love that about this storytelling.
One of our biggest questions about 3 is, where is that 7-Eleven? Which 7-Eleven was that? Is that ground up 7-Eleven, Scott Chambliss, or what?
No, that's a real thing.
Okay.
That was something here in the Valley, actually.
Really?
We figured it was here in California, because you do a lot of shooting in California, right?
Yeah.
We gotta go
did a
find
lot.
it.
I've got it in my location files. I can't remember which one, though. It was a pain in the ass, though.
Why?
You know, it's corporate bullshit.
You
would think, of a Mission Impossible movie, that's one I remember as a pain in the ass, a 7-Eleven in the Valley. Fuck.
Yeah. So going back to the Vatican quickly, the bathroom. Did you make the bathroom from the ground up?
Yeah, we built that.
That bathroom's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks. It's a little overdone now. When I look at that, I think, oh yeah, that was kind of showy, wasn't it?
We love it.
Yeah.
We also built the whole underground, obviously, of the Vatican, the tombs and all of that stuff, which was great. I had such a beautifully talented scenic painter who did all of those old murals in the tombs, catacombs. Wonderful.
Yeah. Where was the soundstage for that? Was that here in California?
Yeah, we were on 7, 8, 10, and one more at Paramount for those. That was fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's where the headquarters was too, right? Yeah. Somebody said that they would walk. You could walk by the soundstage and you could hear Lawrence Fishburne's booming voice coming out.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That was a fun set to do. That, I don't know if anybody recognizes it, but the main corridor that people walk down in the headquarters with all the gun rack closets and all of that stuff. That's literally based on taking an elevator shaft and turning it on its side. So if you look at that again, you'll see kind of a metal rail with these black doors that they're pulling your things out. If you just think of that going like that, it's an elevator shaft, and those black doors would be the doors that open into the different floors. I'd like to do shit like that.
That's really cool.
It was fun.
And you got to design the DMV or whatever the department.
Virginia Department of Transportation.
Yes, yeah.
Wasn't that exciting?
No.
What about from a production design standpoint? What is the Shanghai sequence when he's on top of the building? Was shot on a parking structure, with a bunch of green screen
down the street
at Universal Studios. What goes into that for you from a production design standpoint?
Well, what it starts with is I go scout Tokyo and Shanghai, and I literally climb on top of the tallest and newest of the skyscrapers to get onto their roofs, walk around with my location manager to determine if it's something that's viable for the sequence that we're gonna do. And I spent 2 days in Tokyo doing that at daytime and nighttime to see what the looks were for them, and 2 days in Shanghai And it was a really good thing that I didn't have vertigo, because to get,
Yeah.
it's not like you go up to a skyscraper and the elevator lets you off on the roof. Usually it's the elevator stops at a habitable floor, and then there are 2-3 floors that are just, not habitable utilitarian spaces. Then you often climb up a ladder to get onto a rooftop. And my favorite one, which is the scary one, which is the tower that we used in the film in Shanghai with that steeply angled pitch that Tom slides down.
Right.
It's based on a real building, obviously. We did second unit aerial shots, which are in the film of the thing. So the first time I go up there, we get to the top level, and again, there's a crow's nest where I'm just climbing these ladders, and I have to open a hatch, which is fine to get out, and there's the pitch roof. I climb out, get out on the steps there, and I see there's a walkway with steps that goes down to the bottom. There's, the whole glass roof. There's a walkway that goes across the bottom edge as well, and then another walkway that goes up there. There is just a parapet wall that's the face of the building that's about 1.5 inches tall, comes up just above my ankles, and there is no safety rail anywhere.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Anywhere. So I'm up there. The sidewalk is about the normal width of a sidewalk, no bigger, 2 feet, maybe 2.5 feet. There's the edge of this 80-story building right there. And it's like Shanghai right down there. And I think, you know what? I can determine just without moving from this space if this is going to work for us or not. I don't think I want to let go of the door here to the hatch. I'm looking around, feeling the wind, thinking this is as dangerous as fuck. Yeah, this wins. This will work. We can do this. So do that. Choose it. Can I follow up with the best part of the story?
Oh, of course.
Okay. So we come back. It's Tech Scout Day. We're in Shanghai. 120 people here. We're up on in that roof. And I'm going to show JJ what the roof is like. And then Tom. And then as many people as want to come up as well. And everybody knows what the scoop is. Not everybody wants to come up, but people have to see it. So I go up first. JJ's right below. I flip open the door. And there is this local guy who's in the middle of the glass angled ceiling. He's got his 2 feet in a ventilation grill holding on. He's got one hand in a ventilation grill above him. No safety, anything, anywhere. And he's got a rag in his hand. And he's cleaning a window. He's just rubbing this window. And the door flips open. He sees my face. He goes like this. And I'm going, no, it's fine. I know I look like White Devil, but it's fine. You're okay. And he's like, and I just gestured, come over, come down. You can just come off. And he starts slowly inching towards me.
Oh my
one
God.
by one. And he keeps looking at me, and he keeps looking at his feet, and keeps looking. It's like, I'm coming down. Come on. He went down. It's like, I could have killed the guy. If he lost his gripping, he would have slid down and would have been, yeah.
OSHA is not a thing in
It's
Shanghai,
not,
I guess.
not big there.
No.
And so that happens. JJ comes up. He does the same thing. He's like, I can tell here too. I'm not even going to get up. This looks great. Let's do it.
God.
Wow. That's
insane.
Oh, made my heart race just telling you the story.
Well, besides that finale, was there anything that you designed that didn't make it in, or things that you wish were in, or that didn't make the final cut?
There are always things. I think my only sadness about how that movie looks in the end of the day, there are things that I would always change about my work because I'm never satisfied, and they're technical things, and they glare at me, but not necessarily everybody looks at them. But the one thing that I think is a little disappointing, just in terms of the visual storytelling of the movie, is it's not so much the design, and it's the only criticism that anybody leveled at JJ for the film of any significance. And that was, I think because of where we all were at that moment in time in our careers, JJ focused a lot on close-ups with Tom. The vistas aren't that wide, and at the end of the journey, intellectually you've gone all over the world, but you don't have that kind of visceral feeling overall, like, wow, that was a great journey from number 3 because we're too tight. We don't get to see it.
Yeah.
And the world was amazing. Both, the locations, the built sets were expansive. We had it all there. It just didn't all get shot. Or at least put in the final cut. And he saw it too. When he saw the final version, and his closest people were saying, could have backed up a little here. I don't think that happened again in any of his films. And by the time he came back, especially for the second Star Trek, he was, he had his wide shots. As
well, it's so weird
because
nobody moves a camera like JJ too. So it's really weird watching it now and seeing how many shots are really. I mean, Tom's face takes up the entire frame.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point that he's bigger.
Well, it's just really long lenses too, so you're just not seeing much in the surroundings.
That's also a habit from episodic television.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And because we you watch a scene. I think before he goes off, it's like the end of the first act. He and Michelle Monaghan are on the roof, and there's like one shot at the beginning where you see all the city lights around them, and it looks really beautiful. And then it goes into the close-ups the rest of the scene, and there's nothing but black around them.
Yeah.
The whole rest of the scene.
Yeah, I'm so glad he got out of that habit. But he's a smart guy. He is one of the very smartest guys I've ever worked with.
Right.
For sure.
You have a Keri Russell story on himself.
Oh, I do. It's a sweet one. I love her. Yeah, that whole thing about television people, rats. When JJ said he wanted to cast Keri in something, he got the resistance again, and he was insistent because he knew this would be a great part for her, and he knew she had great screen potential to be on the big screen. And she's a lovely person too. So they do the screen test, and they spend a day just shooting people without sound, and everybody's all hot and bothered to see if Tom and Michelle are going to be able to create any sparks together on film. So there's a lot of energy put in that. And then they trot in a few other people that nobody cares as much about. And Keri's one of them, and she's just there, and they shoot her. So the next day we all pile in to see the dailies of all of that stuff. And Tom's there, of course, and Paula Wagner and JJ and the rest. And the Michelle and Tom Cruise scenes are there, and because they had just met, they didn't really know each other. It wasn't exciting. They were beautiful people, and they looked good together and all of that stuff. But it wasn't, didn't set you on fire. And then after all of that was the last role, which was Keri Russell, and there she is. She's beautiful. She's got her golden ringlety hair. She's in a white wife beater. Jeans. The light is angled just perfectly at her. She's smiling. Somebody says something that makes her laugh. She turns around. She's just like, suddenly there's a movie star up there. And she was like a golden girl, and I was so happy for her. And I thought, yeah, nobody's going to even be watching this. Finishes, lights come up, everybody's quiet, and Paula Wagner, first to speak, says, "Well, there was a movie star."
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, isn't it cool?
That's so cool. She's so great in the movie.
She is.
Was she only... I wonder if she was only considered for that part, or if they were looking at Keri as the love interest now.
No, I don't think that was even
Okay.
a possibility.
Okay. She's great.
She is, and she does have good chemistry with Tom in there too. But I have not seen her not be good with somebody. She's just so full of life.
And JJ's bringing her back for...
I know.
Star Wars. Star Wars.
Nice.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Was there any talk of you coming back for future installments? I mean, with JJ sort of installed as the shepherd of the franchise going forward, was there any talk of you coming back?
No, because at that point I was in lockstep with JJ. You know, he had Star Trek coming up next, and then after that we were going to do the second one. And we didn't get out of sync until I got onto Tomorrowland, and he, quite to everybody's surprise, took Star Wars at the same, not the same time exactly, but close enough that I was into the prep for Tomorrowland, and I couldn't leave Brad on that without creating havoc to join JJ, so it wasn't a possibility, and JJ was very respectful. He was like, no, I wouldn't want to do that either, so.
Well, and Bird was going to do Star Wars.
I know.
It's such an interesting...
That's weird.
Yeah.
That all gets murky. It's like...
Yeah. There was a time when he was going to shoot both back to back, which would have been really something.
Both being Tomorrowland and
Star Wars, yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd work.
Yeah, and he was going to leave. Yeah, he was going to leave post production to shoot Star Wars and then come back. It was crazy. But I mean, what was your like sort of relationship with the franchise before signing on?
Mission Impossible?
Yeah. Did you watch it as a kid or?
I saw the first one. I thought that was fun, but not my genre. I mean, it's the same with science fiction. I've never been a science fiction fan.
Wow.
And yet here you are.
Kind of a joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because I don't know if every production designer feels the same way, but being a fan of specific kind of material isn't my job. What my job is to be turned on by creating worlds for a story. And I love designing science fiction, and I love designing Mission Impossible things. There's not really anything I don't love designing except kitchen dramas or medical shows. Blah. But no, I'm so grateful for the career I have because I have this incredible job that I get to do.
And you work on the biggest movies around.
Yeah. And just this year kind of got to a point of like, we need to shake this up a little bit.
Okay.
Because there has been a sameness in terms of the product. It's all big tentpole, glossy, and recently sci-fi after sci-fi after sci-fi, that as a creative person, when you keep going into the same world over and over again, it becomes more confining each time that you need to recreate the unseen or create the unseen in a new way for a similar story.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Well, I was on the set of Volume 2, and I can tell you how amazing those sets were.
Volume 2 of
Guardians of the Galaxy.
You were?
Yeah, I was on the Ego ship set.
Oh, yeah.
I have a picture somewhere of us sitting in the kind of like Barca Lounger or whatever on the set. But yeah, it was in that like derelict mall that you guys had taken over. Yeah, yeah.
Did you do both of the Guardians?
No.
Just the second one?
The first one was done in London by a guy named Charles Wood.
So I'm assuming you're not coming back for 3.
No.
Okay.
2 was kind of a special case. That was a really trippy psychedelic thing.
I love the way that movie looks.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I wish they'd invested the money in actually doing the design for the finale. The Planet Ego design was rather different from what ended up in the film. But
oh, really?
Yeah, it's
the like catacomby stuff or the.
It's some of it's there, but there are other aspects of it that are really kind of kit bashed together for expedience and financial sake that give me heartache.
Marvel, put up the money. Do it, you know.
Well, they're so broke, you know. I can see that.
There's this one part they talk about in the commentary of MI3 where Tom Cruise and JJ there's a transition between actual location. I think wherever that village is outside of Shanghai. Mm-hmm. And then it goes on to stage. And the city street is in the background of the stage. And it's completely seamless. Just, I don't know, I wanted to hear how that went. I mean, it was amazing the way that you were able to make that transition.
Yeah, so here's how late the finale came up. I think we had 6 weeks to manifest that. I'd scouted all of that stuff, taken all the photographs. We love that area. JJ'd seen it all. When he was reconceiving what the finale was, it turns into being in this weird, funky medical space in an old Chinese building in the town with the street that you talk about. We started with that street that we liked, thought this would be the great lead in. So we love this little alley, really, in Shitong, this little island city, and think that would be a great entry for Tom to run down and duck into what's going to be this old medical facility. I've got that. I've got the photographs I took months before. And then I've got 6 weeks to design and build this whole complex, which was pretty fast for something that was going to be as large as it was going to be a build. It filled a whole soundstage. And realizing what had to be done, I thought, oh God, I got to get one of my art directors out to China right now so we can actually survey and get the dimensions correct. Otherwise, it could be like total fuck up. I couldn't do it. We didn't have time. I had to have it drawn, and they had to start building it immediately. So I had my photographs, I had my memories of the space and all of that, and got my art director and set decorator together and just downloaded them with all of the information. We proportioned it to the best of my memory of the space. And, you know, I go and tape out the floor and I put my hands out. It's like, yeah, this is about right here. That wall was there. That wall was there. The door scales too. It wasn't that much above my head. It's just I'm flying by the seat of my pants. And we get it done. I mean, it actually worked in the film.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I figured you must have. That's amazing that you did that. I mean, it's really seamless. That transition is amazing.
Yeah, that was the hardest one to manifest, because to me that's a great finale, and it's a really moody, atmospheric place to have it in.
Mm-hmm.
All of that works, and there's so much detail in that set, which once again you don't really get the full impact of it. There are rooms that we never ultimately went into. Also in the barber shop that they're being held in, there's spaces in there that Cameron didn't even look at. Nevertheless, it was exciting to manifest it, and that was something I'm really proud of.
Can you talk about working with Sid Mead on the mask generator machine? How collaborative was that relationship?
Oh, sweet, not at all.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
He wasn't even present. I mean,
okay.
even then he was an older guy, and
Right.
he was working, you know, in his own studio, and he would have liaisons who would, you know, transmit. They'd get on the phone. And
Okay.
all of that. It was much like Tomorrowland. He was kind of, everybody reveres him, and he did that one mask prop. I don't think he did much of anything else for MI3.
No, yeah.
No,
they
just had that one credit for him as like the design of the mask maker machine.
Yeah. And he did, I don't know, I know Sid did some concept ideas for a promo poster for Tomorrowland.
Yeah, I have that promo poster somewhere.
Yeah.
I had him sign it at Comic-Con or something.
Yeah, that came at the very end. He
Yeah.
he and his partner came and looked at all of our art and was like, oh, isn't that something? Yeah. And then he went off and did his own thing, which was sweet.
Right. All right. Scott Chambliss. One in the chamber, one to go.
Hope
Love
you
talking
enjoyed
to him.
that. Yeah, Scott was wonderful.
He was really great. Yeah, we have part 2 of his interviews next week. He's got even more great stuff. More Tom Cruise details. Don't worry, everyone.
Don't you worry. Yeah, next week he's got a great story about Tom Cruise that's really fun.
Yeah.
And hilarious.
Anything else? Any housekeeping we need to do?
Just sign up for our Patreon.
Please.
As we always say, I'm sure it's super annoying to you at this point, but
So that's patreon.com/LightTheFuse.
we love our Patreon subscribers. They make this possible, so please help out if you love the show. It means so much to us. And speaking of our Patreon, this episode is brought to you by Jeremy Dillon. And a special thank you to Thomas Jeffroy. And also Thomas told us on our Skype chat recently, he said that he watched my movie Night Owls on Amazon Prime in the UK.
This is the most self-serving.
I got to do a little self-promotion. We do a lot of work here doing this podcast.
Your Hulu movie will be covered, Charles.
The Night Owls, I had said before that I didn't know internationally where it was. It turns out it is streaming on Amazon Prime for our UK listeners out there. You've got an important project coming up soon that we can't say yet. But I'm very excited for you. And we will talk about it when it comes, and I'm very excited for you. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
But I now just can't say what it is.
We can't say what it is.
But it is really cool.
Well, maybe we'll see.
We'll see. I'm very excited for you, though. It's really cool.
But by this point...
But this is about me right now.
I know, but I was going to say...
Night Owls is available on Amazon Prime in the UK, also in the States. And it's also on something called Tubi TV. Tubi?
T-U-B-I?
Yeah, T-U-B-I, which I'd never heard of before, but I guess there are a lot of, I think, like college kids and stuff. It's like a way to get television for free. They just have ads on it.
Okay.
So if you have Tubi TV, Night Owls is also on there. I'm not sure international, but here in the States.
But I think that at this point, your other movie will have been announced.
Yeah, there might even be a trailer.
Okay. Do you
By
want to talk
now,
about it?
what day is it? November 8th?
If it's the second week of November, then
I would
the
guess
November
the
one,
trailer
Pilgrim
is
is out.
Yes, Pilgrim is the Pilgrim is out. Yes,
Yes.
I would think by now. That's
think
the,
it's the
that's the
first.
Thanksgiving episode
Yeah.
of Into the Dark. And then the next one is mine. It's called A Nasty Piece of Work. And hopefully that trailer is out now, I would assume.
I can't wait to see it.
It's you saw a rough cut of it.
I saw a rough cut, but I know. But you're saying you're doing all this work.
Which maybe I wasn't allowed to show you, but I think
Whatever.
it was okay.
Friends and family. Yeah.
I was getting notes, trying to make it better. But yeah, the trailer probably is out. Look up A Nasty Piece of Work on Hulu from Blumhouse.
With stunt work by previous guest
Yes.
Keith
Campbell, who we love so much.
So yeah, I think that's it. Like, subscribe, rate, review wherever you're listening to this.
Yes, and this episode was mixed and edited by Luke Burson. So thank you, Luke.
Awesome. We'll be back next week with Scott Chambliss Part 2.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcasts@gmail.com. If you'd like to watch the original Mission Impossible television show, all 7 seasons are currently available to stream on Amazon Prime. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.